25 years I've been running my business, there's been a common thread that I've noticed about entrepreneurs, regardless of the size of the company that they run. It is the fact that they want more business. More business means more revenue. And yet, one area that a lot of people don't focus on is their visibility. Over the years, there's been many different ways to get visibility. Back in the day when I first started my business, it was not as easy as it is today to get the visibility that we can basically at the press of a button get. And yet many entrepreneurs, many experts don't do what it takes to get that visibility. With all the different strategies that I've used in my business, I've worked with my clients on, and I've put into practice over and over again, one that stands head and shoulders above everything else, and it's one that I use in my business quite frequently, is getting on podcast shows to be interviewed. What that simply means is I look for shows that are a good match for what my expertise is and the audience that will either be listening or watching what it is they're looking for. So if you're an expert and you're looking to gain visibility, one of the best things you can do is put it in your promotions plan, put it in your business plan, put it in your PR plan to get out and be seen in a big way from the comfort of your home. So what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, come to terms with the fact that the microphone and the telephone is your best friend, because when you use it properly, you can get a lot of visibility in record time. You can get in front of thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions of people with your message. Now, just because you get in front of millions of people doesn't mean that they're going to buy your thing, whatever your thing is. There's an art to doing an interview in a way that you drive traffic back to your website, back to your Amazon page, back to your blog, back to your social media. And it's really about the conversations you have. However, before you do that, you have to find these opportunities. So what are the steps in finding opportunities? Well, first of all, you have to let people know who you are. This is Kathleen Gage with Power Up for Profits, where we help bona fide experts gain massive visibility through the power of podcast interviews. And the first thing that I always recommend to my clients is to get really clear on who their market is. And rather than just kind of shoot in the dark and hope to hit the target with your definition, look at who you've done business with in the past. Look at who you've really enjoyed doing business with and profile these people. I was having a conversation with a client just yesterday about her ideal client. And I said, describe to me the types of clients that you've worked with. And she tends to have a pretty woo-woo company. I work with people from all ends of the spectrum as long as they're a bona fide expert, which means they've been doing what they've been doing for a considerable length of time, whether it be photography, a fine artist, a tarot reader, perhaps a teacher. It could be somebody who is a environmental expert, but they've been doing it for a considerable period of time. So as we were going through her client base, I said, okay, tell me the different types of clients you've worked with. And she's worked with attorneys, she's worked with doctors, with dentists, she's worked with executives out of corporate environments, and quite seriously, it wasn't what I expected. I thought she would have been working with entry-level coaches, if you will, just because of the way she was branding herself. And I said, go ahead and define all of those clients more specifically. I want you to come up with a description. Now, do this with at least 6 to 10 clients and really define and clearly outline what it is that is so unique about them and what is it they do, what are their hobbies, how long have they been in their business. Then what you want to do is you want to look for a common thread among all of these people, because that's the languaging that you can use in the promotional material to attract more of those people. And when you're doing interviews, you can actually add that into your languaging. The next thing that you want to do is you want to start listening to podcast shows. It's amazing how many people want to get on a podcast show, but they've never listened to one. So my recommendation is once you define who your market is and you're clear on that, start looking for shows that tie into that particular market. So maybe you work with sales professionals in a corporate environment. Simply go to Google and do a Google search on sales professionals in a corporate environment podcast shows. And you'll start noticing probably quite a few shows that come up. The next thing you can do is you can go to iTunes, which is the king and queen of platforms for people who do podcast shows, and do a search. There's an area where you can actually do a search. Do a search on sales shows, on sales professionals shows, on corporate sales shows, and just start looking for the different shows that you can actually listen to get a feel for what type of people they interview. Once you do that, then it's time to reach out to the show host and create value to them for you being on the show. Now, before you reach out to the host, it is recommended that you actually listen to their show. You listen to 1 or 2 episodes or at least a portion of a show to get a feel for what's their interview style. Do they even bring guests on? Because if they don't bring guests on, they're probably not going to bring you on. Don't think that you're going to be that one exception to the rule. Many show hosts would prefer not to have guests. Others definitely want guests. Okay, so when you approach them, you need what's called an expert pitch sheet, and what that means is it's just a one sheet that has a very short bio, topics that you can speak on. It has a very high-resolution headshot on it, and if you're an author, it has images of your book cover or book covers. So you put that, and then your contact information. You put that together. It can be in a PDF format, and then you start reaching out to the shows. And you say, I was listening to your show on corporate sales, and I listened to episode 25 and episode 58 when you interviewed Bob Jones and you interviewed Mary Smith. What I particularly liked about the episodes was how you talked about no more need to do cold calling, that you can actually do warm calling and hot calling when you do X, Y, and Z. And so you basically are letting them know that you've listened to the show. The next thing that you want to do is you want to set your website up in a way that you actually have a media room. In the media room, you put your pitch letter, you put your headshot, you put your book covers, you put your contact information, you put testimonials from show hosts that have interviewed you, so there's social proof that you actually can hold a conversation, because it's amazing how many experts can't. So if you can minimize their risk and minimize, actually create social proof, you're going to be way ahead of the curve. And then keep a spreadsheet. Reach out to the host. Usually it'll be by email, or they may have a form on their website. If they ask you to fill out the form on their website, probably a good idea to do so, and not probably, it is a good idea, because they have the form there for a reason. It helps them to stay organized. Again, don't try to do it your own way when they have a system in place that helps them to streamline what they're doing. But the reality is that if you focus on getting lots and lots of podcast opportunities, the more podcast interviews you do, the more interviews you're going to have opportunity to do. And what I mean by that is, when you do interviews and you're good at an interview, other hosts are listening to various podcast shows, and they probably will reach out to you. Now, oftentimes the host will ask for you to send an intro and maybe some suggested questions. However, don't be married to the questions. What you want to do is you want to have questions that actually can help you to make a point. One question you definitely want to have in your list of questions, which would be the final question, would be, in my case, okay, Kathleen, so we've had a great time. How do people get in touch with you? And that's where I have the opportunity to give my web address, and I don't suggest that you give a whole bunch of addresses. You give one web address, and on your website you should have all your social media links. You don't want to give your web address and then your Facebook address, then your LinkedIn address, then your Twitter address, then your blog address. People are going to get confused. One web address with all your contact information on one page. And if they were to say to me, okay, Kathleen, this has been great. How do people get in touch with you? Okay, Robert, Thanks so much for inviting me here. This has been delightful. Glad that you asked, and my web address is powerupforprofits.com. That's